Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of Beyond the Barclay, Beyond the South Stand edition with myself, Jez Davies. I'm joined with the sexiest man in Dereham, Morgan Hewitt. Hi, Morgan. How are you?
Every time you come up with some new light on it. So yeah, I'm good. I'm very well, thank you. I've just avoided a massive downpour here, but yeah, I'm very well. Excited to.
I was going to say that would have dampened that quiff somewhat, wouldn't it? So that could have been a complete disaster.
You're on fire today, aren't you?
Yeah, yes, I am. Indeed, not literally, unfortunately. So, I mean, look, without further ado, let's introduce our guest today. We're very lucky to be joined with Gabe Sutton. Hi, Gabe. How are you?
Hi, Jez. Yeah, good to have you on. I thought Dereham was a female-only region.
Yeah, probably is. To be fair. Excellent. So, I mean, perhaps for those people that are unaware of you, perhaps you'd just like to introduce yourself, what you do for a living, and what football team you support.
Yeah, so I'm a Birmingham City fan. So sorry for 2002.
Thanks.
I know, yeah. I'll go now. No, it's great to see you both. So I kind of journalist on the EFL, so I kind of study the leagues, and yeah, I've enjoyed following Norwich for a while. They're a club that I've always had a lot of respect for. Obviously, a lovely part of the world, and I don't know if it always feels this way from sort of the inside, but I've always got the impression that Norwich as a fan base are probably a bit more patient, generally speaking, than maybe in other sort of parts of the world, and that's something that I really admire. Whether it always feels like that on the inside, I don't know, but yeah, great to be on.
Oh, thank you. And that's a great point, actually. I think Morgan, perhaps you'd like to sort of expand on Gabe's point there about us being a patient fan base. What would you?
Are you setting me up for a fall? Is that what you're doing? I mean, that's just, it is a good point. I think we were, and I think we were very lucky to have Daniel Farke come in, back in 17-18, and everything changed, I think, for us and our expectations. So I think we were quite patient. I mean, fan base, you always got certain fans within the fan base that expect everything tomorrow, and we'll touch on this a little later with some of these questions, but I think of late we're certainly not as patient as we have been. Would you agree with that, Jez?
I think so, and I think it's just the nature of the beast, isn't it, these days, and the expectation of us being in the Premier League a few times over the last decade. I think sometimes people not get ideas above their stage. I never would label any Norwich fan at that, but they just want the best for the club at the end of the day, and I guess that's the same as any football fan up and down the country. So I think you've already touched on what team you support, Gabe, but perhaps you could just give us a reason why you support them, what your most cherished memory is of following Birmingham City.
Yeah, so support Birmingham City. My dad supported them, really. So give you a funny anecdote, actually. Initially, for the first sort of 11 years of my life, I couldn't quite get into football. There was something about the attention of kind of watching the pitch for the whole 90 minutes kind of thing. I don't know if anyone else, when they were kids, kind of had that challenge of being a bit restless or whatever, and most Birmingham City fans still are restless now, but I think but I think when it was a weird so I wasn't certain, as a kid, that I was definitely gonna get super into football, and then there was this random call that I had from a dad where it was a time where the price of season tickets went up because we'd just got into the Premier League, and I got a call to say, do you want to go and watch, we had a goalkeeper called Ian Bennett, and he had a testimonial, and we were playing Jamaica for some reason in 2003, and that was the moment where I kind of walked up those steps and thought, oh wow, this is a big ground, and I kind of got a bit more immersed in it than I had done. And then from that point onwards, by a sheer twist of fate, there happened to be a season ticket that was available because someone who was going to have a season ticket had different plans. And then the situation just opened up for me. So that was kind of a bit of a sliding doors moment, even though I didn't realise it at the time, because ironically now, 20 odd years on, I've got a career as a football journalist. So it's funny how these things work out.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
100%.
smiling. I'm smiling because I always use that term, sliding doors, and Jez always.
Yeah, that's one of yours, isn't it? Yeah,
the butterfly effect.
Yeah, I love it.
That's a new one for you, Morgan.
Should
we brainstorm our ideas, Morgan?
Yeah, exactly. Jamaica. So back then, I mean, I'm trying to think who would have been playing that day. Maybe someone like Robbie Earle. Was he? I'm sure he played for Jamaica. Was he playing
possibly?
that day?
I don't know. I remember we had a midfielder called Brian Hughes who scored twice in that game. I'm not sure who was playing for Jamaica.
Wow, interesting. That's brilliant. I think Morgan, over to the next question for you, sir.
Okay. So as you sort of introduce yourself, you've come a long way from those early days of uncertainty to a fairly illustrious career as a football journalist. You've got over 35,000 followers on X, so that's no mean feat. How did you start your football media journey? And what tips or tricks would you impart on anyone starting out to do the same?
So first of all, how did I start out? I think I initially set up a website, and the plan was actually to cover the top 4 divisions of English football. But then what I found out was that when I was covering the clubs lower down the pyramid, that would actually surprisingly get more views, because although the potential audience is narrower, the likelihood of engagement of that audience is higher, because it's rarer for clubs lower down the pyramid to get somebody covering them. So I think, and this kind of feeds into the second part of that question, Morgan, which is the advice I'd give, which is find a niche. I think if you go too mainstream and too broad and try to appeal to everyone, you actually end up kind of just blurring into the background and not really appeal, unless you're absolutely amazing. But even if you cover the Premier League, I think you've got to have a real angle or a real niche where that makes you stand out. So I think finding a way to stand out for any young journalist, that's the first thing, because that's how you create value.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I suppose in relation to like the rise of TikTok. I mean, we have a chap who works for us called Ollie, and he's like a TikTok analyst, I'd say. Do you think that's changed the landscape somewhat as well, that the advent of TikTok and its rise?
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because I've probably got a fraction of my following on TikTok is a fraction of my following on Twitter, and yet if I get recognised at games, which happens from time to time, people would offer. It's quite common for people to mention TikTok rather than Twitter, so it is a good way for getting your ideas out there in a short format. And I think the way people communicate ideas has changed nowadays, because I think for somebody to say I've written a book, it's difficult in the modern era to get people to buy the book or to read the longer form content if they don't see a little snippet of what you've got to offer. So that's another thing that I would have to advise for young people who want to become journalists or content creators. You've got to be able to do the short form, and it doesn't mean the long form isn't relevant, because I do 3 1-hour podcasts a week, but you've got to use the short form stuff as a way to get people hooked and into the long form stuff.
I mean, that's something that me and Jez started this last year, and I joined in January, and I'm not that up on all of that kind of stuff, the social media stuff. Jez for the effort that the man puts in is ridiculous, but we've noticed that, haven't we, mate? Like the short form stuff feeds into the longer form stuff.
Well, I certainly, 100%. Well, our best ever, or should I say our most interactive ever post or podcast or whatever we've ever done was a 15-second goal clip from Norwich City women's match, which it was a great shot. It's never crossed the line, but obviously we've kind of put it out there and said, oh yeah, it's definitely a goal because it's Norwich City, so it's a goal. And everyone's gone, no, it's not. And we had, I think it was something else. It's just shy of 1 million views on TikTok. Which was amazing, and that's far and away our most interactive piece. But you're right, Gabe. I think there's a lot of things nowadays, and we talked to Connor Southall, who I know that
he's brilliant. Absolutely love that guy. He's great, isn't he? Yeah,
he's superb. And he was talking about how he's even in the relatively short time that he's done the job he's done, he's had to evolve, and almost the print media of getting a newspaper out 2 or 3 hours before the game, and here's the, all the tactics and stuff. That's gone now. It's now you've got to do a video. You've got to go out and do a short, as you said, a short or something like that. So it must be, even like yourself in the industry, you must have seen such a change over the years.
I mean, you say over the years. I mean, I suppose I started 11 years ago, and it's true that it wasn't as advanced as it is now. So TikTok didn't exist then, but I suppose I've only ever known the sort of the Twitter era, if you like, and so from that point of view, it's pretty similar. But yeah, I think you've got to play the times. But I think definitely from my experience, the more I think there's. When you start out in journalism, you sort of think, well, if nobody's paying for your content, how do you monetize that? But I think a lot of the time, if you're a well-known and well-respected voice, a lot of the offers kind of come organically. So it's literally about trying to build an audience for yourself, and then the money can kind of flow from there, if that makes sense, as opposed to starting from the money when you don't actually have the audience to kind of sell to, so or sell to clients, if you like. So so I think building up an audience is a really important step if you want to become a journalist or a content creator.
No, definitely. And I think sort of just moving on then. So I mean, obviously in Norwich's experience, Premier League hasn't been a happy hunting ground in recent years. And do you feel the gap between the Premier League and Championship is widening? And what's next? How do we bridge that gap essentially?
Yeah, I mean, I think from Norwich's point of view, for much of that time, you've been a self-funded club under Delia and Michael, because certainly in the last few years, they've got right to the bottom of, what they're able to give. So, you had to be a selling club. And obviously, you look at what Sunderland have felt like they've needed to spend just to stay up in the Premier League.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. I don't know, how realistic it is to stay up in the Premier League if you're a self-funded club. So I think that from Norwich City's point of view, I see the Atanasios as being quite important, just because if they can inject a bit of capital into the club, that might be the thing that that gets the ball rolling. I mean, I imagine from your point of view, there's a bit of optimism around what the impact that they can have.
I guess so. I mean, I feel. I mean, me and Jez have these conversations quite a lot, and I wrote down. There was a really good BBC article on the recent transfer window, saying about being about approximately £3 billion spent on players, and is this bad for how things move ahead? And I don't want to get that, I don't want to go down that negative rabbit hole, because it is a conversation, but I think part of me is quite uncomfortable with it. Like, if we to go up, we have to spend in circa the same sort of money that maybe Ipswich Town has spent, but in the right way the last time they went up. It's par for the course, but it doesn't mean to say I like it. So yeah, I don't know what your opinion is, Jez.
No, I agree. I think we're in a very unique position where we do have some of those sort of players that we have brought over the last couple of years under Delia and Michael's ownership, the likes of Josh Sargent, who, let's be honest, if we keep him, I mean, all of the pointers are that we will, because we don't need to sell him. He's happy where he is, clearly. So you've got a player of his nature that if he goes on and has a good season and goes and has a good World Cup, if we don't sell him in January, he could be upwards of 40 million. So I think there's players like him, but equally they've, with the introduction of Ben Napper, I think a man that used to work for a data company.
When is Sargent's contract up? Is it 2028?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so if he has a great World Cup with America, then like you say, it's not like he's in the last year of his contract, so you can sell him. Okay.
Exactly. So we still, he's still got his the only thing with Sargent is his injury record, and it might be that if he can keep, that's the other caveat. If he can keep himself fit, we've got a massive in terms of potential, massive player there. No, not even potential, that's the wrong word to use. He is, he's within his sort of age bracket now where he will go on and be able to sort of recoup sort of a big transfer fee. So I think Norwich have done the right thing in keeping him now, because circumstances. But the point I was going to make about Napa is we've invested in some players that we probably wouldn't have done previously. But equally, because we've got an Atanasio now, we've got the funding in the back end to go, right, well, we will go and spend that money on that player. I think, Morgan, you raised a really valid point recently where previously we haven't been able to do that under Delia. We might have got our plan B, our plan C. So no, I think, sort of cut a long story short, it's a really exciting time. And Liam Manning as well, who's an experienced championship manager that, you'd probably argue overperformed last season to get Bristol City into the playoffs. So, I think it's a really exciting time to be a Norwich City fan. And I think if we do go up, we've already kind of got a little bit of a solid basis already. We'll need to spend, but I certainly think there's the base there that perhaps Sunderland didn't have because they haven't been in the Premier League for so long.
Yeah.
If that's a fair shout. Morgan, over to you, sir.
So I guess going back to your sort of career, there's plenty of Premier League media coverage. So tell us why you focus on the EFL and what it means to you as a whole.
Yeah, it's a great question, Morgan. I think you said it there, that there is so much Premier League media coverage. And I think that if you want to cover the Premier League, you, as a complete starting from scratch, you've got to be so good to stand out, and you've got to have such a great niche. It's and even then, I think it's difficult because although you're shooting at a wider potential audience, you've also got way more competition. So I've actually found it easier to focus on the EFL because I think people are more glad of somebody covering their clubs and have it, and they're interested in a neutral opinion on their clubs because they don't always get that. So that's definitely been a big thing for me in my career. I think, and also I've also really enjoyed covering and promoting sort of community clubs that maybe have slightly different values to perhaps what some Premier League clubs have.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, it's something that me and Jez, we've had conversations about recently about focusing on more sort of grassroots community football. We're going to visit Hitchin Town in October as part of a series that we're running called the Canary Club, because they're nicknamed the Canaries. With the Canaries, I'm sure you can work the rest. But Dulwich Hamlet, Clapton, Wroxham, Dereham, Kings Lynn. I think it's just really important to have these clubs as almost like a community hub. And I think I've been to a few. Well, I started doing a little bit of football tourism with my friend where we were going to League 2 and League 1 games, and I just enjoy it. I just enjoy it so much more. I mean, obviously, the pressure isn't on because I'm not going to watch Norwich, so I don't have to worry so much.
Sure.
But I just there's something about it. There's just something more real about it, and I think that's one thing that Norwich has always kind of had. It's almost been straddling both those camps of EFL and the Premier League, and it still kind of does that. And I guess because it's by and large the biggest club in the area, it still has a massive draw. I know you're smiling because I didn't mention Ipswich.
Yeah.
No, I think just to touch on your point on the non-league side of it there, obviously you mentioned Hitchin, who we will be visiting in a few weeks, Morgan, and I think it's such a raw experience going to those clubs because you're standing by the side of the pitch. You can hear absolutely everything because there's only 200-400 people there, so you can hear everything that's going on the pitch. You can have a beer in front of the stand or in front of the game. You can have a bit of banter with the officials if they decide to play ball, but I think they're so important to their local community as well, and I think more important than people think sometimes. Particularly a club like Hitchin that have got a football hub in Baldock, and that's used by thousands of people a week. That if that facility if Hitchin Town wasn't there, that facility wouldn't be there, and therefore people wouldn't have, or there would be limited opportunities. So I think it's a really important aspect. 100%. I think just moving forward, Gabe, I know we're sort of on a bit of a schedule here. Right. What is so Wrexham and Luton's recent rise through the football leagues has been well documented.
Sure.
what club do you think might be a surprise package over the next few seasons in League 1 and 2 currently?
I think Stockport County, we've already seen it to a certain extent. They've got a lot of money and ambition behind them. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were a club that found themselves in the Premier League in the next 5 to 10 years. So I think they would probably be the ones. In League 2, it's actually a bit of a lean period when there's not many clubs that have got that kind of financial power behind them. So I'd probably pick out Stockport.
Okay.
Interesting.
We sold Brad Hills to Stockport, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, I was just about to say, yeah. Brad Hills, centre back. He was on loan there last year, but he made the move permanent in the summer. But no, I think that's a fair shout with Stockport. What did you make of Stevenage's start to the season?
Yeah, Stevenage have been fantastic. Local to you guys, of course.
Yeah.
I think, really like the work Alex Ravel's done. They've always had some very solid defensive foundations from the last few seasons. They've got I don't know if you've ever been down there, but they've got a really good centre half called Carl Pejani, who has been great there for the last few years. So they've got some solid foundations. But I think under Alex Ravel, they're playing slightly better football. They didn't actually score as many goals as they'd have liked last season, but they seem to be addressing that this year. And I think Jamie Reid has been in full fitness, which has probably helped them because he was prolific in the 23-24 campaign. So I think Stevenage have had a great start.
Excellent. And
can I just ask, what do you think to just for a friend of mine he's an AFC Wimbledon fan, he lives in Dereham. It's a long story, but he was on the podcast over the summer. So what do you think is going to be their season?
Wimbledon, I think they'll just about stay up. I think they're going to be good defensively because they've got a really strong kind of rear guard and they're very well organised. I don't know that they're going to score enough goals to do much more than stay up. Obviously, financially, they're up against it at that level, a bit like Norwich are whenever you go into the Premier League. But I think they'll just about stay up.
Oh, that'll be music to his ears. He said the same thing last season when they got through the playoffs. It's just like, we just don't score. We don't score goals. So they sort of eke their way through it, but good on them. So I suppose back to the Championship, do you think the league's becoming more fractured? And obviously I didn't realise when I wrote this question that you're a Birmingham City fan. So just quickly consider the focus of the parachute payments from the relegated Prem sides. And obviously, yourselves and Wrexham have got financial clout. So do you see the Championship getting more fractured as the years go by?
Yes, to an extent. I think there can definitely be a bit of a bottleneck of the same teams staying up there. But then, as we've seen with somebody like Sheffield United, that if you make bad decisions with the parachute payments, then you can come a cropper from that as well. So I think it works both ways. Luton, of course, went straight back down, didn't they, after coming down from the Premier League? So I think it varies, but definitely I'd like the Championship to be a bit more financially balanced. I think the problem you have is because there's so much money being spent in the Premier League, clubs coming up to the Premier League have to spend a certain amount to compete, but then when they come back down, they've got this huge wage bill. So I don't know what the right answer is, but I would like to see the Championship become a bit more of a financial level playing field.
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing for me with Luton was that they weren't ready for that Premier League experience, and the size of the club and everything else alongside it. I just think it was such a massive achievement for him to do it in the first place. Obviously, Rob Edwards was probably the catalyst to that. Looking at what seeing what Middlesbrough are doing now, it's hardly a surprise to me. But I think that then the sort of subsequent relegation really hit home. Obviously, that with them going down again. But I think hopefully they've now stabilised. I think that another team that's had a relatively decent start in League One.
Yeah, I mean, I think just on your point about relegated teams in the Premier League, bringing Ipswich to the fore. I mean, I saw a flyer from when they went up in terms of all the players they had compared to what they've got, and I think they've got what? Have you seen that flyer, Jez? Like, I think it's like 4 or 5 players left from.
Don't tend to read Ipswich flyers, mate.
It's because it's been on the Pink 'Un, and
okay.
that's how I saw it. And they've got like 4 or 5 players left from that campaign. So, and they're sort of, I think, finding their level.
No, definitely. 100%.
But yeah,
sorry.
That's all right. I know we've got a time limit.
Yeah. So look, I mean, just before we finish, I'm desperate for Morgan to do his random question of the week. But is there anything else that you want to talk about? Anything exciting in the pipeline, or anything you want to plug?
Me. So I've got a podcast that I record on the Championship. That's on Mondays at 5:30. So sometimes we might touch on Norwich City. So you can. We've also got a video editor for EFL Debate, which is quite exciting. So you can subscribe to EFL Debate on YouTube and on Spotify if you like more of that content.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Let's do this random question of the week then. So I'm going to hand you over to Morgan.
I'm glad you're sitting down, Gabe. You probably think, what a pair of numpties. Random question of the week.
A bit like the Harry Hill thing.
Yes.
Random question of the week.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but yeah, sort of. So obviously you're a sports media journalist. Imagine if one day you have an autobiography written about you. What would it be out of the choices of the names? Which one would it be? Sutton on the fence? Sutton who? ? So and certainly Sutton.
Sutton what? Certainly Sutton.
Certainly Sutton. Like Sutton.
Easy to say.
Okay. Sutton who or probably get Sutton on the fence. Yeah, I'll go Sutton on the fence, I think.
Why is that?
I mean, because I am quite a balanced person. I like to see things from both points. So it's quite rare that I have a really strong and aggressive take on things. Normally, I'm someone who can see both sides. So I suppose that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, that's a really good response.
I'll have to hire you, Morgan, to be come up with on the creative side, coming up with the names.
I mean, I'm gonna have to break it to you, but I was gonna use that for Chris Sutton, who was gonna come on.
Okay, interesting.
So, but he hasn't.
I mean, me and Chris can share the fence. I'm not selfish. He wants to sit along.
I don't. He certainly isn't someone who sits on the fence with his opinions. So you either love Chris Sutton or you don't. I really rate him. But Jez, your autobiography, what would you call it?
What are the choices?
Come up with it yourself.
I think I'd go down the peep show route and probably call it a real Jezzing.
That was really good off the top of your head, to be fair.
Thank you very much. Gabe, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been great to chat. Really enjoyed your time.
No, definitely, and best of luck to Birmingham this season. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
I'll give a shout out to my uncle.
Excellent. Right, so everyone else watching, please like and subscribe on our channel for more great content. You can follow us on all of our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram and X, and watch the show on YouTube and all the various podcast stations. I've been Jez Davies.
I've been Morgan Hewitt.
I've been Gab Sutton.
Perfect.
Bye, everyone.